G'day gang. Just before we get started, I want to share a resource from my friends at Safe Bay, a youth and survivor-led organisation in the US working to prevent sexual violence among young people. They just launched something called Vibe Check. It's a free, fully anonymous, self-guided tool for anyone who's wondering if they, or even if a friend, might have crossed a boundary or caused harm. It helps you think things through without judgment and points you toward real next steps and resources. You can check it out at checkyourvibe.org, and I've linked it in the show notes as well because I really, truly believe in this resource, and I think it's an incredible tool that I'm so glad somebody has created, and they haven't used any AI in the creation of this. It's all come from real experience and knowledge that they've been collating for years and years as an organization from students and survivors. So please go check it out, send it to someone you know with teenagers, somehow get it in front of, in particular, the young boys in your world. And if you haven't already, I'd highly recommend checking out Safe Bay and my previous podcast episode that we've done around sexual violence prevention in schools and universities.
This program is brought to you by Pussy Magnets.
Put a midge on your friends with a pussy magnet.
Welcome, my lovely lumps. Or should I say lovely labs? I'm so thrilled to have you here in the Labia Lounge. We're going to yarn about all things sexuality, womanhood, relationships, intimacy, holistic health, and everything in between. Your legs. Ooh, can't help myself. Anyway, we're going to have vag loads of real chats with real people about real shit. So buckle up. You're about to receive the sex ed that you never had and have a bloody good laugh while you're at it. Before we dive in, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm recording this, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. It's an absolute privilege to be living and creating dope podcast content in Naarm, and I pay respect to their elders past, present, and emerging. Now, if y'all are ready, let's flap and do this. Oh my God, is there such thing as too many vagina jokes in the one intro? Whatever, it's my podcast. I'm leaving it in.
Don't panic, you're not broken. Your sex education was a piece of shit. Get your flaps out and pull up the couch. It's the Labia Lounge.
Ah, shit.
Far out, woman. What's got sand in your clam now?
Pew, 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 pew. Sand in my clam. Hey, my labial love bugs. Welcome back to the lounge. Today, I have Jill, aka Sex Ed Princess, to chat about, God, I don't even know. We've kind of just decided to let it rip and see where it takes us because we've got like two of us like badass sex educators in the one online call. I was going to say in the one room. And yeah, I just figured we could chat about a few things that are getting sand in our clams. We could tell some stories, maybe talk about some of the most common questions that we get asked as sex educators and the answers to those, because there's no end to those questions that just continue rolling in. And there's often like the same ones over and over and over. So we can just whack it in an episode. And then, yeah, maybe I've got a couple little things around like boundaries and stuff that I wouldn't mind chatting about. So stick with us. And let me give you a rundown on Jill. She's a content creator, speaker, grad student, and sex educator. She started as a sex and gender violence peer educator in college and has been doing this work ever since. She's passionate about shame-free and inclusive sex education for all people, and her social media content emulates these passions. She also is a body image and eating disorder advocate and incorporates self and body acceptance into her sex education work. Jill aims to be fiercely feminine, unapologetic, and sex positive in all that she does. Welcome, Jill. Pull up a clit cushion. I'm so happy to have you.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me and for that amazing introduction. I am so appreciative of being in your space. I'm so excited to chat today.
Oh, it's all you, baby. I'm like so fucking enamored with the way that you show up online. Like the humor, that's like my jam as well. And I mean, I've been a hot mess for quite a few months now, so I haven't really been making any funny video content. But back when I was like, had my shit a little bit more together and I could be bothered making content for like such a cunt of a fucking platform that was constantly censoring me. I loved making like humorous, kind of playful, funny videos that were also educational and also like political and also kind of, yeah, just like thought provoking. And I was just kind of rinsing your page yesterday when I was trying to prepare for this call. And yeah, I adore the way that you make really fun, humorous videos and also present information and yeah, a like kind of activisty feminist, but also like silly and don't take things too seriously. Like love, 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 love.
Yeah, no, you got all of my basically all the boxes I'm trying to check. You have just told me that I'm checking them and I love that. And so I appreciate that so much. But yeah, in terms of like the humor and the silliness that I try to bring, something I always think about, especially being a young person, I'm 24, I am always like, if, 10 years ago, like 14-year-old Jill, like what would get her to pay attention to this information that's important, right? Like what would get her to actually stop scrolling and be like, oh my God, maybe I should know about that. And a lot of the times it's like getting that laugh in first, right? It's being like, oh my God, that's so me. That's hilarious. So I try to really get into that, like, that's so me type feeling with people. And just being authentically myself and vulnerable has been really working. And it gives people a laugh. It makes people feel good. And it teaches them stuff they really should know that no one has ever taught them before, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, big time. I love that. It's such a good approach, so effective. I definitely was like looking at yourself being like, wow, I feel like she must be heaps younger than me because she's really got a grasp on this whole like social media trend thing. Like she's, using the sound. Like I don't even know what you call any of it. I'm so bad with the apps, but I was like, fuck, she's nailing this. I need to pay attention and take a leaf out of her book.
No, I literally tell people with social media stuff, I'm always, because people will ask me that question. They're like, how do you find these sounds? And like, how do you do the thing? I'm like, literally, I always tell people, I'm like, copy me. I'm not inventing the wheel. I'm like, I am not inventing the wheel. I'm getting it from the other person who got it from the other person, from the person who like invented the trend, right? So I'm always like, we're all helping each other on these apps, on this crazy internet world. And the lovely thing about social media also is that, this idea of competition isn't so competitive because the same person can follow both of us and likely will if they're interested. So we all kind of uplift and support each other and support the same message. And I always love to be like, hey, like this is my friend who talks about this in this specific niche. And like I talk about things in this specific intersection and corner of the internet, right? And everyone, there's no limit to how many people you can follow and support on social media. And that's the beauty of it. So I always tell people like, copy my shit. Like just look and like apply your own niche, apply whatever makes your soul feel on fire to like the sound or, the template, the video template, whatever it is. There is no also right way to do social media. Some people will say there is, but I am learning and, what's right now might not be right tomorrow or even like in an hour because things are constantly changing like every single second. And we're all just trying to figure it out and we can help each other along the way.
Yeah, word. Thank you. I know I cannot keep up, and most of the time I'm like, look, I've fallen so far behind, I can't even be bothered. I'm a dinosaur now, whatever. But then I'm like, oh, that's right, I've got my own fucking business and I actually have to do this shit. Ugh. So yeah, this is good. I need the fresh energy and the encouragement, and maybe I will just go in and like take some of your the funny little like sound bites and templates and stuff. They were so fucking great. I was like, yeah, how the fuck does she find these? Like, I think because I don't actually scroll social media, I don't use it myself. I'm just on there for business. So like I'm not following accounts really that have got all of these cool, whatever to kind of to sort of use. But anyway, not here to talk about social media, the bane of my existence. But love what you're doing on it. So everyone go and follow Sex Ed Princess on Instagram, and I'm sure you're on what are you on TikTok? Like I don't know.
Yeah, I'm Sex Ed Princess on just about everything.
All the things.
So I am, yes, TikTok. Instagram is definitely my main platform. I have fun with TikTok too. TikTok's a little bit sillier. And then I'm on Threads. I'm trying to also get like YouTube going as well. Yeah, no, some of the platforms, bane of my existence. I totally agree. Other ones, I'm like, this is my shit. We're all just figuring it out as we go.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of social media platforms, what are some of the like common DMs you get from people in terms of like, help, I've got this issue, or what do you think of this? Or like, how do you squirt? Like what are the common questions that you field?
Yeah. Oh my God. I've gotten such a range I was getting so many questions in my DMs that I opened up an anonymous question box. So I was like, put your questions here. I'll look at them when I look at them. Rather than having like 30 DMs like sitting in my inbox. And I was like, I can't do this. Like I will go absolutely bananas. So I started doing that. Nonetheless, people will still DM me, and I get DMs from, I'm in this kind of relationship. Things aren't going the way I want. What do I do? Like relationship advice. I also get things along the line. The most common question I would say I get as a sex educator, both on and offline, is, am I pregnant? And that is the one that is just like, I can't tell you if you're pregnant. You have to take a test. Even if you had sex and then you took a plan B, but you're also on birth control, but then the plan B was this many hours after, like, I cannot tell you for certain. I can tell you your chances just about. I can say, hey, based on this information that we have, this medical knowledge, I can tell you this, but yeah, if for anyone listening, if you ask a sex educator, am I pregnant? They will not be able to answer your question. The only thing that can answer your question is a pregnancy test and, talking to a licensed medical professional. There's a difference between a licensed medical professional and a sex educator. They're similar. Their circles kind of coincide in a lot of ways, but they're not, they don't have the same abilities and the same education and background knowledge. So it's important, sex educators can ask, how do I find out the best birth control for me? When should I take a pregnancy test? What do you recommend? Like, things of that nature to help guide you, but I can't tell you, yep, you're pregnant, you're sure pregnant. So those are kind of like the pretty common like sexual health related ones. And then I've gotten some fucking out of pocket ones. Someone once was like, if I take a picture of my dick and send it to you, will you tell me if it's normal? And I was like, delete. No. So I get those too, which are really fascinating. And I'm like, no, thank you. And then of course I get like the just people trying to like slide in, and because I'm a sex educator, assume that I am like a very like sexual person and I want to have sex with everybody. And that is, I'm sure you get that too.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. That is something I know sex educators, like, people see the word sex and then they immediately like, this person wants to fuck me. And I'm like, no, it's actually the opposite. I do not. So it ranges from really kind questions and people really wanting to find a place to get reliable education to more of like a panicky, like, this thing is happening and I'm really scared. Am I pregnant type deal, all the way to, can I send you a picture of my dick? So I get just about everything and anything in the DMs. And yeah, it's never a dull moment on my accounts.
It sounds really similar to my experience as well. There's like, the people that that basically need to hire a professional or a medical practitioner, but they want free advice and they want diagnoses. And it's just like, babes, I can't, like, what the hell? And then the sleazy kind of dudes that just assume that you must be like into absolutely everything and you're an absolute nymphomaniac kinkster that's like, so
And some
DTF.
people are, and I'm like, that's so okay with you, but also like read the bio. People who are like
Yeah.
kinksters, like will say that they are kinksters, right? And they will be like, like DM me like for this thing. So like it takes a simple read for people to know. And it's
Exactly. Yeah.
it is so wild. But going back to what you said, people are looking for like free information, and that is so true. And not only like can we not provide that information a lot of the time, like a diagnosis, but we also shouldn't, and doctors online shouldn't either, because in this society, like no one should just be doing like free labor. Like people go like in my
Doing
comments,
enough. We're
literally people
literally
come,
like free content creators full time. Like full time. Do not get paid. Probably if you averaged out how much I got paid, the amount of hours I put into creating free content
Mhm.
versus the clients I get or whatever, like 30 cents an hour.
Yeah, it's really minimal. And I think some content creators make like a lot of money, but most of us do not make a lot of money. And then the expectation of doing free labor online for people, like,
Yeah.
I can scratch my back, you can like, or you can scratch my back, I can scratch yours type deal. If you put something in my question box, I can answer it for my whole audience. But like, I'm not going to start personally DMing you and taking up my time in the day for you to possibly not even answer, for you to not even follow me. And it's just like something I really try to protect my peace online with that too, because people might be listening and being like, oh my God, Jill's such a bitch. Like, and I'm like, honestly, yes. Yes, I am. And I'm happy to be sometimes, because I'm trying to protect my energy and protect my peace and protect my bank. Because I can't just go and answer every single question. But I do love my audience, and I love the people that are kind and supportive to each other, and also answer each other's questions in the comment section. Because some people who've been following me for longer are like, oh, Jill answered this question like months ago in this video. So then they have the knowledge to then go spread that further. So it's like there are beautiful ways to do internet, and there are not beautiful ways to do internet.
Yeah, so agree with that. It is super important to have boundaries, and you can still be loving.
Mhm.
And I still respond personally to like basically every single DM I get, even if it's just to direct them to like a blog post I did or a podcast episode or another sort of free resource that's going to answer
100%.
their question. But, giving tailored advice in the DMs, like,
Yeah, for sure.
But something really hilarious that there's a woman, I think her like account's called Lani Land. I think she's some sort of sex educator or coach or something, and she was just getting so many unsolicited dick pics, as we have all kind of experienced in this
Oh
industry,
my God.
that she turned it around and she started doing a thing called Rate My Rooster. And so people send her in their dick pics now, and she rates them and like gives
Wait,
it
I've
like a
seen
score.
this.
Yeah.
Yes, I know who you're talking about now. The more you talk
She
about, I didn't know
charges
the
them.
person's name. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
she like
so
charges them
funny.
money to fucking send her dick pics and rate it. So it's like she turned that around and now is like profiting from that, which is awesome. Because I mean, I just thought that was so funny.
Oh my God,
But
as she
speaking of,
should.
yeah, I was like, fuck yeah, get it, girl. Like that's so clever. Um, so speaking of like boundaries, we were talking about, boundaries around our professional boundaries and things like that.
Mhm.
There's stuff I want to chat about, which I'm sure you educate on as well, especially since you're working with like a younger demographic and you were doing some
Mhm.
stuff with like, students. Like I just think boundaries are so important, and like we're not naturally great at them, especially like people
Mhm.
with female bodies like really are kind of programmed to like have really flaky, if not no boundaries, and be people
Mhm.
pleasing. And so something I like that gets sand in my clam that I remember happening really frequently when I was younger. It definitely hasn't happened like in recent years, because I'm a grown ass woman and I've got my shit together in terms of boundaries and what I will
Mhm.
and won't kind of like put up with. But it's funny like how insidious it can be, and that even now like little things can slip past the goalie, and then I'll be like, oh, whoa, hang on, that's like way past my boundary. How did that happen? Like, and then I kind of get a bit frustrated with myself because I'm like, whoa, aren't I like beyond this point? But what like an extreme, or not extreme, but like a common example of how this used to happen was with like and like tell me if you've been in this situation. You would kind of be, I would be with a guy and I wouldn't be wanting to actually like go any further than, maybe I wouldn't even want to kiss him, but I would feel like, oh, like, you know, we're here now and I probably should just like, I guess just throw him a bone and I'll like have a little kiss or whatever. But like I've explicitly said, like, I don't want to do anything else. Like, that's not why we're here. Like, it was agreed that like we were just going to have a cuddle and like company. But like, just because you're in my bed doesn't mean like we're going to have sex. And I've said that. And they've been like, okay, yeah. But then, yeah, like we'll kind of go for the kiss. And then I'm like, oh, okay. And then start, you know, with the hands, and I'll kind of push their hands away and be like, no, like, what are you doing? And then they're like, sorry. And act all like, oh my God, yep, totally. But then just get carried away again and again and again. And because like in the past, I remember these situations, like whenever I would be like, hey, they would be so like, you know, they'd say the right things and they'd be apologetic and be like, yep, totally, like it's all good. And then just like find a new little sneaky, insidious way to like start to like try to escalate things, even though I've said multiple times, like, this is the line. But then it would kind of like it would kind of wig me out because I would like keep getting pushed that little bit further each time before it would feel like it was enough for me to go, oi, hang on, stop it. So each time he's gone that little bit further. And then next minute, I'm like way past my initial boundary and that line I drew in the sand at first, and going like, what the fuck? And then losing respect for myself because I'm like, oh, I can't believe I let him do that, even though, like, you know, and like, how did this kind of happen? And it's just because, you know, that initial boundary wasn't listened to or respected, and we kind of get gaslit and, you know, sort of happened. I've talked about it on the podcast in the past when I was interviewing a pro dominatrix, and I talked about when I'd like dipped my toe in very briefly to trying to do that work, and men would be just, yeah, really like pushing my boundaries to test like how far they could get. And me being indoctrinated as like a woman who needs to kind of people please and put other people's needs first, and more importantly, like not make a scene or not make a fuss or not make things awkward or uncomfortable, I would like be pushed sort of at that little, like maybe a few extra seconds past, like, you know, him touching me in a way I didn't want. I would just wait that few extra seconds before it got to the point where I was like, wait, hang on, like, no, I said, you know. And it's just so insidious how it can kind of like creep past your guard. And because we're so reluctant to make a scene or to like make a big deal out of something, and because we're gaslit when we do by them being like, oh my God, yeah, no, sorry, like, oh, and then we're like, oh, maybe I imagine that he's like an absolute fuckhead because he's being so nice now and he's like so apologetic. But then we'll kind of, you know, have you kind of like, that was a big like blah, 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 blah. But have you experienced this sort of thing where, yeah, it's your boundaries aren't listened to, and then you kind of start like being harsh on yourself as well for like allowing stuff to go further, and then looking back afterwards and being like, what the fuck? How did I, you know?
Yeah. So I have, oh my God, I have so many thoughts. Where do I even start? So the first thing I was thinking of when you said a lot of things that like we, a lot of the times as women are like these people pleasing, like we don't want to upset. And in a patriarchal society as women, our autopilot is to please men and to not make a fuss. And that is something I think about often, and not wanting to be on autopilot anymore, because I think for a long time I was, as so many of us are/were. Yeah. And that is, our brain will often return to that, and then we'll snap out of it and go, oh my God, but my boundaries. And then so there's this tug and pull of like my boundaries, but also the comfort in the autopilot of patriarchy, which is like not rocking the boat, doing, you know, what a man says. Also because to bring in another aspect, for a lot of people, sometimes it's a safety concern.
Yeah.
Because if you set that boundary, sometimes it's like, will that boundary be respected? Am I being put in harm's way by putting my foot down right now and saying no? And for a lot of people, that's a real concern. And sometimes setting a boundary isn't as simple as setting a boundary. And I wanted to bring up that thing too for a lot of people to think about.
Hey, baby babes. Sorry to interrupt. I just had to pop my head into the lounge here and mention another virtual lounge that I'd love you to get around. It's the Labia Lounge Facebook group that I've created for listeners of the poddy to mingle in. There you'll find extra bits and bobs like freebies, behind the scenes, or discounts for offerings from guests who have been interviewed on the podcast. There'll also be, hopefully, inspiring, thought-provoking conversations and support from a community of labial legends like yourself. My vision for this is that it becomes a really supportive, educational and hilarious resource for you to have more access to me and a safe space to ask questions you can't ask anywhere else. So head over to the links in the show notes or look up the Labia Lounge group in Facebook and I'll see you in there. And now, back to the episode.
Something else when you were talking that I really started thinking about was this one time this guy, like, we were hooking up and he, like, we kind of stopped hooking up and we were like chit-chatting and he was like, and then he started talking and then he was like, well, like, are you going to keep going? Like, you're blue ball. Like, he was like, I have blue balls. And this idea of like, yeah, literally that, is my exact reaction. And I remember I got all my stuff and I left. And this was in college. So I was like in a dorm room. And this was also after, like, for background, I was like in an abusive relationship before this. My first really serious relationship was an abusive relationship, where there was like manipulation on a lot of levels, you know, emotional abuse, financial abuse in some ways, as well as some forms of like sexual abuse. So there was a lot. I would say before that interaction, I had almost no boundaries before I was with this person. And then that kind of forced me to have a lot of them. So my first experiences with sex and relationships I would say, are very unique in a lot of ways to most people who are like, oh, like me and Jimmy, like, you know, we dated in middle school and we kissed. And like, that was my first experience. Like, I did not have a serious relationship until this experience in college. So I was on that autopilot kind of patriarchy and like, I'm going to do whatever this man says. And I'm going to listen to this man because society and patriarchy says that I am worthy in respect to the man I am with. Like, so I'm worthy right now because someone else desires me. So I need to do whatever I can to hold on to that. And so
validates my existence and my worthiness as a woman. Yeah. Oof.
Yes, exactly. That's kind of exactly what it was. So like, I almost was like, throw all the boundaries out the window. I need to be desired right now and have this experience. And then I did. And it ended up, of course, like becoming abusive and like harming me further. So then after that relationship, once I started to have other experiences and I formed other relationships, I hooked up with other people. I think my boundaries were extremely firm and I was kind of always on like the lookout. And then with this person who was like, oh, you're blue ballsing me. I was like, fuck you. And I just got up and I left because I was like, I don't want this to happen. But something I always think about is how much young people could benefit. Like, I should not have had to learn by going through that experience. And it's such a shame that so many of us, like literally 1 in 3 women globally experience some kind of sexual assault or sexual violence in their lifetime. And I'm always thinking about how like 30% of women should not have to have this experience, but often it tends to be young women too. And that's not how we should be forced to learn how to create these boundaries. Like, there should be better systems of education so that these things can be prevented, which is exactly why like I do what I do. And like people like us a lot of the time end up doing what we do. So men pushing the boundaries, like you're saying, is like, you you told an age old story that like so many women, I think more women than not, can say, this dude just kept pushing and pushing, especially if you're like walking through the club or you're walking somewhere and you're like, this guy won't stop staring at me. He won't stop looking at me. Like, I'm moving, I'm trying to live my life. And, he's following me, something like that. So many women can speak on that, whether it's during a hookup, whether it is something even platonic, whether you're at a party and someone like grabs you and you're like no, like it's just so many, there are constant moments where your boundaries are impeded on by men. And then you are forced to ask yourself the question, which I hate that women are forced to do, like, oh, should I say something? Is this going to harm me? Am I rocking the boat? Is it even, the question that's come up in my head too, is it even worth it? Yes. Is it even worth it right now? Or should I just process this like in therapy in my own time? Is it worth it to cause this scene? And like, that is, it like pains me so much that like we don't even think like, let me stop this. It's like, to protect ourselves, we're asking all these other questions. But yeah, those are some of the things as you were telling that story I was thinking about. But yeah, it's an ongoing, endless conversation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And even just you talking now has sparked like a bunch of other things that I want to say. But I want to slot in the segment Get Pregnant and Die. Oh, and also I have a whole episode on blue balls. So people go listen to that. There's like it's a Sand in My Clam episode I did with a friend of mine, and we talk about, like blue balls and what a fucking bullshit concept that is. But anyway, just more coercion. So do you have a story for us about your sex education?
Don't have sex, because you will get pregnant and die. Don't have sex in the missionary position. Don't have sex standing up. Just don't do it. Promise?
Something that always comes to mind, which is a pretty unique experience, specifically, like I would say, in the United States, like, sex education laws and legislation, and also just the culture around sex is very different here than a lot of other places in the world. It's very like, you have to kind of figure it out yourself. You're watching porn, you're looking on the internet. Your parents don't talk to you about it, but when they do, you're like 14, and it's when a man and a woman love each other very much, the birds and the bees conversation, yada, yada, yada. A really unique experience that I had was, the reason like I do what I do, I always say, is because of my mom. She always talked to me, and still we talk about it openly, about sex and sexuality. And like when I got on birth control, like she was with me at my appointment. She came into like so many of my gynecology appointments to help me ask questions. I remember one time I was hooking up with someone, and then the next day I got a UTI, and I felt like the UTI, like the burning, and I was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. And I told her, and she like took me to the doctor. She was always like my support person with everything, but specifically with sex and sexuality. And she kind of almost gave me this feeling of like wanting to be an educator like this and be like, I want to spread this knowledge. Like, I'm so lucky and privileged to have such a supportive mother, that I want other people to feel that way too. So most of the sex education that I do remember, a lot of it is from like my mom. I remember just asking flat out when I was younger, like, what is sex, and like, how does someone get pregnant? And she just answered my question honestly and truthfully. And also I had older siblings. My brother is 10 years older than me, and my sister's 7 years older than me. So I remember watching them kind of just navigate like relationships and getting older, going through puberty. And like from the side, I was always like, interesting. My mom also got me and my sister, when we both got our first period, she got us a cake. So that was like kind of a tradition. Yeah. She like celebrated us getting our period. So So that is like some of those moments of my mom are some of the most remarkable ones. And I think that kind of catapulted me into this career. But also I do remember in high school sex ed, we were talking like briefly about abortion. And for background, I have like worked at Planned Parenthood. I've been an abortion provider. And like, I've always been really passionate about abortion rights, and my mom has too. And that was like kind of a value that she instilled in me. And I remember getting in a heated argument with another student in high school in this class about abortion rights and about, bodily autonomy and things of that nature. And that is something that always sticks out in my head. Like, at the moment, I was just kind of like, this is what I do. Like, I'm gonna stand up and fight someone about this. But I look back now and I'm like, wow, like that was really like, that would have definitely been like the intro to like a book about me of some kind or like whatever. If someone, I always like to think if there was a movie about me or something, like what would the opening scene be? Me standing up in like high school health class and like pointing at someone and be like, you don't know what you're talking about. These are the facts about abortion, blah, blah, blah. Like abortion is a human right. And I'm like, that would be my opening scene. But yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But oh my goodness. Yeah. Young me and high school me and having my mom and us having conversations even now has definitely been my, some of the most monumental moments of like my sexual development and my life in sex education.
Dude, that is so incredible. That is quite uncommon. And you're so fortunate to have had that as a foundational kind of piece of your sexual education and development and exploration. Like, that's phenomenal. I'm so stoked for you. And I love the image of you just like in class being so impassioned and like little activist already.
Oh my God, literally. That was me. And like, I think like it's so interesting because I think about this now. Like, I always wanted to be the girl that I always wanted to be the popular girl and like the girl everybody liked and like that pretty girl that like you walk down the hallway and everyone stops and is like, oh my God, she's smart, she's pretty, she's nice, everybody loves her. And then I grew up and I look back now and I talk to my younger self. I'm like, Jill, honey, that was never going to be you. And it's okay because the way you are though is still like special. And I always think about that because it's like, I almost feel like I was born to like stand up and cause a ruckus. Like that's just what I've been doing forever. I feel like I was always loud and talking and I would stand up and fight. And I remember so I grew up in New Jersey. So I grew up probably like 45 minutes from New York City. And I remember the day that Trump like won the presidency in 2016. I was a senior in high school. And the next day there were, I went to there were some like more conservative people at my high school, but I remember like they were playing like his like acceptance speech and like Hillary Clinton's like, her kind of just accepting that she didn't win. And I remember like being at a table like with some of my other friends and like talking about it and just like yelling at the TV and being like, this is so fucked up. And like I was never gonna be this like popular liked girl because I never was someone who was like just gonna go with the flow. I wasn't. And I always was like, oh, I want to be her so bad. And now I'm grown and I'm like, I'm so glad I wasn't. And I'm not because I never would have been me. And having been like that would be sacrificing so many pieces of me.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I'm very similar. Like, was always a little bit unusual and different and very, very happy to make a stand or speak up about something. Like, had a lot of fight in me, I suppose. Which, isn't the easier path, like the people pleasing and the just kind of going along and like the chameleon just blending in and belonging would have been definitely easier and served me in different ways. But yeah, it wouldn't have grown nearly as much. And I mean, it's not possible for people like us to betray ourselves and abandon our sort of authentic selves to the extent that we do just kind of like, what's the word? assimilate
Yeah.
with like our peers, you know, in high school and stuff. So
Yeah. No,
yeah.
it's so many of us like sex educators. There's so much like camaraderie between in people in this field, whether it is sex education or even people who are in like the healthcare field, like doctors, nurses who do this kind of work, people who do sex work, right? Like all of us have like that kind of passion and fire. But it's so interesting because I think about myself in that moment, but then I also think, you know, we were talking about like a little towards the beginning, maybe like 15 minutes or so ago, like I kind of I didn't like have boundaries and I let so much of myself fly out the window in an abusive relationship. And I think, you know, I can picture listeners kind of being like, wait, but she just said that she was like, she would at this point in her life, like she would do anything for the acceptance like of a man. And I think like both of those things can exist at the same time.
Yeah.
Like there were certain things that I was so confident in fighting for and not kind of like, yeah, like you were saying, like assimilating. But then we all are like succumb to this patriarchy. And it's like once a man is like, you know, gives you attention and you feel acceptance from that, like it's this experience of like, I have to let go of some things because this person like to feel some kind of safety and acceptance. And then, you know, the cycle of abuse kind of plays in there. And then
it's never as like, they aren't mutually exclusive, like these versions of yourself and different phases of your life. And, you know, it
100%.
literally, it could just be like, I feel like people, and it gets all, you know, very like victim blamey around like stuff with, you know, domestic violence or abusive relationships, because it's like, you know, how could you stay? And I think people who haven't experienced it or witnessed it don't understand, like it doesn't start out like that, and they could just somehow get you at a moment where like you are either vulnerable, your self-esteem is low, they can meet a certain need, make you feel a certain way, they can act, you know, amazingly for a period, and then once they've kind of got their hooks in, the coercive control starts, the manipulation, the, you know, because like I, you know, talk a lot with people who have been in narcissistic relationships with narcissistic abuse. It's so insidious, it's so clever and like adept at manipulating you and pushing the right buttons and like knowing when and when not to like do certain things, push you a certain way. Like it's so much more complex and nuanced than people maybe understand who haven't experienced it. And I think that's another vicious thing is like when you have, you can end up like the inner misogynist in all of us women that's been kind of indoctrinated into us, plus like this like part of us that starts gaslighting ourselves, because a good narcissist or someone who's quite good at manipulating will manage to hardwire you with an inner gaslighter, so that they don't have to do all the work themselves. They can kind of just like let you fuck yourself up. Yeah, like those things are really, really tricky to get out of that loop. And, you know, then we end up feeling really, we're hard on ourselves. We're like, I thought I was smarter than this. I thought I was like more empowered. I thought I was more of a feminist. Like how, you know, how did this happen to me? But like, you know, especially with narcissists, like they pick clever, intelligent, empathetic people as their victims. And like I did an episode on narcissism with an expert, and it was really interesting. She works with women in particular who have been with narcissists, and yeah, she's like, they're all very clever, beautiful, empathetic women. They're not idiots. Like they're not just vulnerable, easy targets like at all, but the people that are the ones doing the abuse are fucking good at it, and they are clever.
Excuse this quick interruption. I'm shamelessly seeking reviews and 5-star ratings for the potty because, as I'm sure you've noticed by now, it's pretty fab, and the more people who get to hear it, the more people I can help with it. Reviews and ratings actually do make a big difference to this little independent podcaster, and it's really easy to just quickly show your support by taking that simple act of either leaving 5 stars for the show on Spotify, or even better, writing a written review and leaving 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts. Or if you're a real overachiever, you can do them both. That would be mad.
If you're writing a review, though, just be sure to use G-rated words, because despite the fact that this is a podcast about sexuality, words like sex can be censored and your review won't make it through the gates. Lame. Anyway, I would personally recommend doing that right now while you remember, just to get on top of it and let me know you're with me on this journey. Thanks, gang. Enjoy the rest of the epi. So something that I wanted to like make sure, it's a little story I don't think I've told on this podcast, but it's really like illustrating something you were mentioning around like not knowing if it's even worth it to like make a fuss, basically, and then starting to second guess ourselves or be like, oh, is it that bad though? Like maybe it's not bad enough to make a fuss, or like it's bad enough to make a fuss, but like is it actually worth it? Like is it? So I was at an event, like a kind of big indoor like warehouse party. There was a guy who, maybe I think I have told this on the podcast at some point. Anyway, he was like really making people feel uncomfortable, making women feel uncomfortable. I literally watched him just like fucking like migrate around the dance floor, like choosing a target, following them, like trying to, like talk to them and flirt and then pressure them. And he kind of tried it on me. He tried it on a friend. And I was just like, what the fuck? But he was like, he seemed almost a bit dumb. Like he seemed harmless, because you were like, wow, does this actually work for you, dude? What the hell? Like, no. But then it was like, but is this harmless when he's like literally like making everyone feel uncomfortable, making us have to move around the dance floor to try to avoid him, to try to get out of a conversation with him? Like no one was able to, everyone was just being polite. And so no one was being like, yo, dude, shut the like, I don't want to talk to you, go away. Because obviously we were all kind of just like not wanting to make a scene, not wanting to be too mean, because it was like, oh, maybe he's harmless and maybe he's just like not very socially aware. But over and then I saw him a week later at the same venue at a different party, and he was doing the same thing. And I was like, oh, fuck no, like, because I thought about it a bit more and I was like, what the hell? Like, I kind of just feel like even if it is harmless, it's still like he should be told that that's not the way to go about it. Because it was like, he would just like talk to you for like 2 seconds and then be like, do you want to get out of here? And I was like, no, what gave you that impression? Like, but it was almost laughable that it was like his approach was just like, surely that never works. But then, like I'm thinking, oh, he's potentially hanging around till the end when people are intoxicated or they don't have their wits about them as much. Maybe he's picking off like someone who isn't with their friends. Maybe he's waiting out the front of the venue, like because he was really, really persistent. And that's when it started feeling like, oh, no, maybe this isn't harmless. Maybe this is a whole fucking facade that he's got going on.
Yeah.
And like, even if it is like, quote unquote, like, from his perspective, harmless, like he's not actually like strategic or anything, he's still so persistent and so able to ignore people's rejection that like that could still wind up with him kind of getting his way with someone who isn't in their right mind to agree to that situation. And and either way, it made the dance floor an unsafe space because we were just all like so fucking bothered. And I was just sort of watching, and I would go up and chat with the women that he'd been talking to and be like, yo, like, is he bothering you? Like, what's happening here? And because I was like kind of teetering on like saying something, and I'd said to him like, hey dude, like this is actually really not cool. Like I've seen you going up to every woman here. No one wants to go home with you. They're not interested. We are here to dance. You can't just go up to people and be like a sex pest because like they're not into it, and you have to listen to that no and like leave them alone. And he was just there alone, like literally just trying to like pick off women. And he was, yeah, absolutely like not receiving my feedback and would keep doing it. And then every woman I spoke to was like, yeah, like it's annoying and like, no, I'm not interested. But like, he seems nice and it seems harmless. Like that thing every time, oh, it's just harmless. And like, yeah, like it's bothering me and it's annoying, but like I'll just move somewhere else on the dance floor, or I'll just like make some small talk and that, like say no like 50 fucking times because like I don't want to be rude. And I was like, whoa, what the fuck? And so I ended up like speaking to one of the bouncers and getting him kicked out. but that was such a process for me. And there was another woman who had also just been like, I'd been chatting with, and she's like, this is fucked. Like, we were literally unable to be present with our friends and at the party because we were just watching him and like almost feeling like protective of the women that he was going after, and just like watching his sort of movements around. And it was just like such a yucky vibe. And we were both like, should we like say something to the bouncers? Should like what da, da, da. But like, firstly, none of like our boyfriends or like, you know, the guys were saying anything to him, because that's another like, you know, oh no, it's harmless, we don't want to make a fuss, like, and no one wants to like say anything. And then secondly, like even the bouncer was just like needed more proof from us that he was like, you know, and so that was like making us gaslight ourselves, because we were like, oh, like we thought it was an issue, but like maybe we're just making too big of a deal of this or something. And then I was like, no, actually, like, no, fuck this. Like, get him out of here. Like, this is a joke. No one can just relax and enjoy themselves on this dance floor right now. And he did eventually get kicked out, but it was like right at the end of the night. And it was crazy watching that process with me and this other woman, and like just the amount of like convincing before we got to the point where we were like, hang on, no, like it is worth making a fuss right now, because we didn't get that like social support from the boys. We didn't, you know, a lot of the women were like, nah, it's harmless, it's like whatever. And so, yeah, for like most of the night, we were kind of like, oh, maybe we're just making a big deal and it's bothering us more than it should or something. And we don't want to like, yeah.
The fact that it is, I'm thinking about, because I was right before you said like, you know, like making a fuss, I was like, it's this fact that like a fuss has to be made, and it's not like saying something to a person and A, they stop, or B, everyone believes you and allow like this person is escorted out. So much of our women are so accustomed to not being believed or being gaslit,
Yes.
or just like experiencing like micro doses of harm that aren't like major shots to us. So we're just like, it's easier to deal with those micro doses of harm because we're so used to it. And then sometimes the larger fuss can be more traumatic, because then people are like, oh, well, you wore a really slutty outfit, so why aren't you expecting that men are going to come up to you? And then it gets flipped on us every single time. And that is also something I thought about in that situation. And so many of those women sounded like so kind. They're like, he seems nice. Like, we assume the good, and we like to assume the good, and we just continue moving about, because if we don't, more harm can be done to us, which is a shame in like in the grand scheme of us trying to like prevent this bullshit from happening. So it's like an age-old tale. It's like these stories that we're telling and we're talking about are like, I'm sure someone is going to listen and be like, yup, been there, been lived through that one. Like, it's just so, I always think I'm unique, and like my experiences are so unique. And then I go on TikTok and then I'm like, wow, everyone has like lived such similar experiences, because like women don't get a fucking break in a lot of ways. And I always like to mention, like, as white women, we have so much privilege, specifically women of color and trans women experience such a brunt of negative and harmful experiences. So it's like women in general, yes, but even more so once you get into more of those intersections. And it's such a fucking shame, and it's disgusting and awful. And it's like, there's so much I wish I could change, but like this, everything is so systemic and layered and like historic that it's like, we're doing the work. Like, people like us are doing the work, but not enough people are doing the work. And a lot of people aren't listening still. We're like, I always say, something I always say as a sex educator to people is, I feel like I'm standing on top of this mountain and I'm screaming. And there are people all around, like I have a megaphone, and just like nobody hears me. And I'm like, me and like my fellow sex educators and professionals are standing on top of this mountain, like screaming, like there's a fire, or like something's going to explode, like something is happening, and everyone's just walking about their day. And I'm like, when will people hear me
Yeah.
screaming on this mountain, right? Like how many lost lives, how much trauma is it going to take for people to hear me? But that's like a metaphor I always use, that it's like, we all shouldn't have to scream on this mountain. It should have been just like one of us. And then everyone would have been like, okay, yeah, like it's all like a boy who cried wolf
Totally.
situation. And it's truly
Yeah.
awful.
Oh my God, that's such a good way of describing it. I totally feel like that. And it's so hard because, like, often, like, really what needs to be happening is like women banding together and also like the other men, like being actual allies and not being like so confrontation or like make a fuss averse. No one wants the drama, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, yeah, like what you said about the fact that we even have to make a whole dramatic thing and make a fuss is fucked because it deters us from doing it. And it's because we've got like all of these little steps that are leading up to even having to, like, if we were listened the first time and believed the first time, if we like told someone else and like the other people around us were just like, absolutely got your back. Like, if you're feeling that way, if you're feeling uncomfortable, think no more about it. Don't gaslight yourself. It's not okay. If you feel that way, it's not okay. Let's do something about this, but that doesn't fucking happen. We've got to convince people. We've got to convince ourselves. We've got to weigh up whether it's worth it. There's like, like a bit of a risk and reward thing going on. And that's just basically to fucking exist. Like it's such a luxury to just like have a dance floor feeling like safe and not worrying. Like it's just such bullshit that it needs to, like, we know that if we want to create a change in that moment, it's going to be a shit fight. It's going to be a whole fucking thing. And then we're going to feel, because I was like still second guessing myself and feeling like guilty that I got this guy kicked out. Because what if he was well meaning and he was just like, lonely? And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, it's so fucked. It's so fucked that your brain does that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I feel like very relatable experience.
Yes. I love what you said 2 seconds ago, bringing in men into the equation. And I always say this to people and they're like, Jill, that's a fucking hot take. But I always say to people, like, men are useful in like, these movements, whether it's feminism, sexual assault prevention, gender-based violence prevention. Like everyone's like, fuck men. Like, why do men exist? Like all men are trash. And I'm like, okay, I hear that because men have traumatized us and men can be of great use and benefit. And I always say this, and there's something, so I study human sexuality. I'm getting my PhD in human sexuality. And there's like a subfield within that is like masculinity studies. And people like dedicate their whole career to studying the ideas and toxicities of masculinity. And toxic masculinity hurts everybody. It hurts women, but it also very much hurts men, especially men who aren't seen as the quote unquote alpha male. And there's this idea of the man box where it's like, you have to be all of these specific features to fit in the box. If you don't fit in the box, fuck you, forget you, you don't belong. Like, and we're gonna judge you. Yes. So it's something I always think where it's like, if people of all genders, including men, get behind like these movements and are dedicated, it is so helpful. And specifically men, because men and white men, even more specifically, white men with power and money, even more specifically, which tend to be the men that do the most harm, unfortunately. If those men take action and get behind some of these movements, they can create such monumental and instrumental changes because they can set a precedent for so many other men who are afraid to leave that box, who are held by these standards, right? And I think we're starting to see that, like people stepping outside of this man box and making changes. Even, for example, I believe an NCAA like basketball player was like painting his nails. And that is something that is like seen as not traditionally masculine. And even small things like that make monumental changes. And sometimes also I say men are useful because men have the power. And I always think this is so funny. Like I always say men have the power to simply shut the fuck up because men love to take up space, and men can do an amazing thing by stepping to the side and uplifting queer people, women of color, trans women, like marginalized people can be uplifted if men simply do their part by shutting the fuck up. So men can have like they have a place in these movements and they can do good, whether it be they set an example to other men and they become this this role model for other men to be like, we don't have to be confined by this anymore, because it confines us and it confines other people, as well as just amplifying other voices and being like, I'm going to take a step back. And I think not a lot of people, I think women put a lot of the burden on ourselves, and because we trust ourselves, we know we're going to do the work. And I wish we can get to a point, and I'm like, it'll be such a great day when like people of all genders, men, women, and, I like to say men and non-men, because men tend to be the ones, straight cis men tend to be the ones like on the higher end of the hierarchy, and then non-men, which includes, trans men, women, non-binary people, genderqueer people, basically that are not the cis men. We can like walk hand in hand and like make shit happen. And because the shit you're saying over there, the things that men are doing are not only oppressing us, but oppressing each other. And so I love that you brought up, like, I wish men would like say the fucking thing that needs to be said, because they can make some monumental changes, especially on not only on the larger scale, but starting on the small scale, where you just like talk to another man so that we don't fucking have to do that because it puts us in more danger. Like, talk to that creepy guy if you're noticing something and just be like, hey, what you're doing is not cool. And you're helping like so many other people in that room. But that's my soapbox about masculinity studies and the role of men, because I don't think people talk about like what men can do enough, and instead we kind of push them out. And I don't like exclusionary politics. I'm like, what can we do to bring everybody in and make it so that everybody has a place at the table, and we can amplify people who have been pushed away before and make space for more people. So that is my soapbox.
Love it. Yeah, like 100% agree. One little thing I was thinking that's like it's just complex is like, I know some men who, because there's this stupid fucking gendered, I mean, there's the whole gendered thing around like, oh, you can't punch a girl, but like you can get into a fight with a guy. And so, boyfriend or a male friend will be reluctant to sort of say something or get involved because they are vulnerable to being bashed. I mean, we're vulnerable to being fucking raped, but it's almost like I've had things happen where I have wanted to say something, make a scene, do something, punch a guy, but I've been with a male friend or a boyfriend who I knew would not do well in a fight, and we were outnumbered. And I was like, well, if I make a scene, nothing's going to happen to me necessarily, but he's going to get bashed. So then it's like, that's a whole other layer that like, and it's just fucked that there's even like, that level of like toxic masculine like violence and stuff. And it's rare that that would be a situation these days in the circles that I'm kind of in, but like in certain places and environments, like that's another consideration. Like, men who might want to say something actually just can sense that like the people that are involved, they're dangerous and they're violent, and it's not going to go down well if another man opens himself up to like, anyway. So it's just, it's complex and it fucking sucks.
Everything is so complex. Like, I wish it were simpler, so then people wouldn't feel so deterred from having these conversations, because it really causes people, and I found that with sexuality and sex education in general, because people are like, if I don't understand it, I feel stupid and I don't want to be a part of it. And that's especially something I hear with like the LGBTQIA plus education and conversation. And something I always say is like, you don't have to fully understand someone or something, but you can respect someone or something and like know what's right and what's wrong. You don't have to be a queer scholar and like recite queer theory and write a thesis to be like, hey, you're not being nice to that person. I don't know fully. People might be like, I don't know what pronouns are. I don't know what being trans is, but all I know is that that's a human being and you're not being nice. And so, yeah, these complexities and these layers, they're all everything. Nothing is ever going to be black and white. Everything is going to be so complex. But I always wish I'm like, dang, I wish everything was just ABC 1, 2, 3. So then we could all just like be so in it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd love to just like insert a little segment before we wrap up. We've got like one or two more things that I'd like to chat about. But do you have a TMI story for us?
TMI, we love it. TMI, we love it.
Oh my God. I'm trying to think. A TMI story. I have so many. I feel like I have so many. And like at this point also, like I could tell so many stories. And then my level of what's TMI and what's not is so different than the average person too. Like literally one of the things that I feel like I have to talk, it's the Labia Lounge. I have to talk about this. And like an article was recently written about this for me as someone did like a video on me about this. But like online, I always talk about how like my one labia is just like significantly bigger than the other. And I grew up being like, what the fuck is going on down there? I want to get it cut off. Mom, make me an appointment. We're getting surgery. I'm getting this thing cut off. And she was like, hold your horses. Like, what are you talking about? But one of the biggest like TMI things for me that has turned into being not so TMI is talking about my vulva and like the appearance of my vulva to like normalize it, to make it not so TMI. But yeah, that's something I would say that immediately came to mind is as a TMI thing is just like talking about my vulva and the way it looks and how, and like, you know, normalizing that shit because you know, you don't often most people don't even know what they look like to begin with down there. Nonetheless, do they know like changes that might occur during pregnancy, during puberty, during all those things, because like labia size, shape, color can change during all of those different aspects of life too. So I always tell people like, take a mirror, get with it down there, get into feel around, do the things. And it feels like for a lot of people, like if I were to bring this up at dinner conversation, they're like, whoa, that is TMI as hell. But my goal is definitely to make it not so TMI and for people to just be like, yeah, the same way people are like, my eyebrows are two different shapes. They're sisters, not twins. My boobs are sisters, not twins. My labias are sisters and not twins. Right. And same with so many different aspects of our bodies. And yeah, that's the first TMI thing that came to mind for sure.
That's so good. I love this sisters not twins thing. And it is slowly. I mean, at least, I mean, I'm the same. It's like, what is even TMI anymore? It's so funny because I have like a dating app profile that's like for the Labia Lounge where I ask people to send in their TMI stories. And it's just like one way that I like collect little TMI stories. And so often people are like will tell me this like super fucking basic, boring story. And they're like, is that too much? Is that like too TMI? I'm like, babe, honey,
I had anal sex.
To the point. Literally, God, you have no idea how often. So like two most common TMI stories I get through because also like most of the people that match with my profile are men on the dating apps. I'm not really sure why that is. It's open to men and women. But so I'm getting a lot of stories from men. Two most common ones. I snapped my banjo string, like frenulum snapped, bleeding during sex, and thought it was that the girl got her period, but it was actually that I'd like, you know, snapped the frenulum of my foreskin and my dick was bleeding. Can't even tell you how. That's like every second story. And then like slightly less common than that, but also extremely common story I get is about anal sex and like poo going everywhere. And it's just it's so common. And I guess that is like, that counts as TMI. You wouldn't probably bring that up at the dinner table, but my threshold for TMI is so high at this point. So yeah, I feel as though like being able to, people now like will, especially with like the feminist movement and like breastfeeding in public and things like that, people will definitely talk about having one boob that's smaller or larger than the other. And I feel like we're pretty close to being able to refer to our labia in like slightly more public contexts in that similar
I know
way.
we're getting there.
Like,
We're getting there.
People like
Yes.
you.
No, yes, that's exactly what I try to do, because it's like something I haven't like talked about as much, but I recently like made a story about this on Instagram, is like I am getting in a few months like a full body like skin check to like moles, freckles, all the things, see if everything is good. And a lot of people don't realize like down there also gets things like that. You know, you can get like tumors or moles and like things that you want to know about. So like get in touch with yourself, not only for your pleasure, not only just to normalize and accept your body, but also for your health, to know kind of what is normal for you and what is different. Because if something changes, that might spark you to want to ask some questions to your healthcare provider. So I not only think it should be normal just because like, fuck it, like this life is too short to like not just talk about our lives and our bodies and to feel shame about them. Like no one should ever be feeling shame about these things, but also so that you can maintain your health and know what's going on. And like the same way, you know, we normalize these, like checking our breasts and feeling for lumps. Like we should be looking at our entire bodies and seeing kind of what's going on there and making sure. Because another question I'll get from people sometimes is like, you know, my labia got darker or my nipples got darker, like changes in the skin tone. And a lot of people don't know that that can be related to like hormonal changes. It's like if you're going through puberty, if you're going through pregnancy, but at a different time, like you might want to ask some questions, and it can all depend. So like, getting to that point for so many reasons, like pleasure, self-acceptance, self-love, but also health. There's no wrong reason why someone wants to better understand their own body and know what their body looks like, and also talk about that with people, because people have gotten like different skin cancers and like melanoma on their vulva, on different parts of their vulva, and they would have never known if they didn't like pull flaps back and go in there and check it out, right? So TMI, so much of TMI shouldn't be TMI. And TMI as an idea, it's like, and I love that you do this segment, because when I've said things to people and then they've gone to me and been like, oh, like TMI. And I'm like, don't shame me. I'm like, don't make me feel ashamed for what I told you. Like, fuck it. Let's talk about the TMI. Let's talk about the anal sex poop. Like, let's talk about the banjo string, like ripping, right? And that is stuff that like should be talked about, because I would bet you it's happened to a lot of people, but people with penises or men are not talking about the possibility of that happening, or even if they're like, or asking for help if it does, and like feeling ashamed about it. TMI for me, like people saying TMI just incites so much shame. So I really love
aggressive. It's like, so it's just another like form of oppression and like stemming any sort of educational conversation that could come of, you know, like it's just another fucking tool of the like patriarchal powers that be that want to like keep us feeling disgusted in our bodies.
So I love exactly why I love that you ask about it, because you're like, let's not do that, and let's talk about the fucking weird shit that like we should be talking about, that we shouldn't say is like fucking weird or is weird in the best of ways, right? And so many people, like going back to the vulva conversation and like the labia, so many people messaged me and they were like, oh my God, like me too. I had no idea that like other people had this experience. And it's like, the more we talk about it, the less people feel shame, and the more people can find community and feel less alone as well, whether that's like with boobs, with labia, with whatever it is. And that is so monumental, because in this world of billions and billions of people, we often feel so alone in some circumstances. But it's important to remember that, like, if you're, no matter how interesting or odd or irregular you might think your scenario is, there is someone out there that will at least hear you out and be like, maybe I didn't go through the same thing, but I totally get you. And that's like what talking about it helps people to discover, find communities, find conversations, find education, and find people that don't make them feel ashamed of existing and having the experiences that they've had.
Hey, me again. If you'd like to support the potty and you've already given it 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening on, I want to mention that you can buy some really dope merch from the website and get yourself a Labia Lounge tote, tee, togs. Yep, you heard that right. I even have Labia Lounge bathers. Or a cute fanny pack if that'd blow your hair back. So if fashion isn't your passion, though, you can donate to my Buy Me a Coffee donation page, which is actually called Buy Me a Soy Chai Latte, because I'll be the first to admit I'm a bit of a Melbourne cafe tosser like that. And yes, that is my coffee order. You can do a once-off donation or an ongoing membership and sponsor me for as little as 3 fat ones a month. And I also offer one-on-one coaching and online courses that'll help you level up your sex life and relationship with yourself and others in a really big way. So every bit helps, because it ain't cheap to put out a sweet podcast into the world every week out of my own pocket. So I will be undyingly grateful if you support me and my biz financially in any of these ways. And if you like, I'll even give you a mental BJ with my mind from the lounge itself. Saucy. And I'll pop the links in the show notes. Thank you. Later.
Yes. Amazing. Absolutely agree. It's the whole reason I've got this podcast. It's basically my mission in life. So, you know, everyone get out there, talk about your labia, talk about your boobs, talk about the TMI things, just like test the water with people that you feel like might be a safe space, and just like start setting new precedents within your friendships and your relationships and your family, and just fucking talking about the shit. Like, be the trailblazer, be the courageous person that gives other people permission and creates a safe space to talk about the stuff that maybe previously was considered TMI. That's
and you never know
action for you.
Yes, and you never know what can be born out of that either. It could be like a new friendship. It could be like someone might say to you, like, you literally changed my life, right? Just by talking about something, you never know what the positive like repercussions could be from that. And I always say, whatever the topic may be, whether it's sex or like politics or something else, like, we're never going to get anywhere and create changes if we don't talk to one another and have conversations with one another. So even if it's someone who you might not always get along with, like, there might be so much you don't know about them. And if you know, are open to a conversation and hearing someone out, you might learn, like, I didn't know, like, we both grew up with the same kind of childhood and we both had this experience. Then it's so much good can be created from a simple conversation and from just a little dash of vulnerability in there too.
Yeah. Word up. All right. Fuck yeah. That was a great conversation. Thank you so much, Jill.
Thank you. Oh my God. I had so much fun. Like I said, I could keep going and talking about this for hours and hours and hours, but someone has to
do another. We can do another. We can like just get a bunch of questions that we both get sent in, and we can just like do a big Q&A episode if we feel like it at some point. Yeah.
That would be so fun, because considering all the questions I get, even like reading the funny ones, I would absolutely love that. And then that would, give people a place to like get a lot of their questions answered at once. So that is truly, truly amazing. But I thank you so much for having me. This was an amazing conversation and we talked about so many important things. And I hope the people that listen like are able to gain something or learn something. And it's such an honor and a privilege. It was such an honor and a privilege to be here talking to you.
Oh, pleasure, treasure. And everyone go follow Jill's work. Send in questions. I've got like a little idea of having maybe like a semi-regular episode brewing where we just like, you know, every month or every 2 months we like jump on and we do something like that. That would be really cool as like a collab. But yeah, amazing. Thank you.
And that's it, darling hearts. Thank you for stopping by the Labia Lounge. Your bum groove in the couch will be right where you left it, just waiting for you to sink back in for some more double L action next time. And in the meantime, if you'd be a dear and subscribe, share this episode, or leave a review on iTunes, then you can pat yourself on the snatch, because that, my dear, is a downright act of sex-positive feminist activism. And you'd be supporting my vision to educate, empower, demystify, and destigmatize with this here podcast. Also, I'm always open to feedback, topic ideas that you'd love to hear covered, or guest suggestions. So feel free to get in touch via my website at freyagraph.com or say hey over on Insta. My handle is Freya_graph_YMT, and I seriously hope you're following me on there, because damn, we have fun. We have fun. Anyway, later labial legends. I'll see you next time.